we're going to be going over some alternative ways to play Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy. Joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, which means you get videos every single day. And if you want to improve my speech patterns, all you got to do is go to Patreon. And if we get 1 million patrons, I'll take speech therapy lessons so that I'll never, ever mistake words again.
That's true. If you take speech therapy, you automatically never make mistakes ever again.
Can you tell I've never been?
100% true. This channel is sponsored by Dragon Shields. They have the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Literally, we put them on every single one of our decks, and I cannot tell you enough. Put them on your decks. Use their playmats, use their deck boxes, and especially use their amazing sleeves. 11 out of 10 product. The rest of their stuff, 10 out of 10. Sleeves, 11 out of 10. That's how good they are.
They're even better. So we've got some alternative ways to play Commander for you. A lot of people.
Whoa, Beezy. Happy birthday to everybody whose birthday is today. That's super important.
Everyone's like, what happened?
People are going to be so mad at you.
Yeah, I almost ruined birthdays. Happy birthday, double happy birthday, even triple happy birthday to everyone, because I almost went past it. But if you're looking for an alternative way to play Commander, throw a little spice into the Commander game night, I think we have 8 alternative ways to play, and I think most of them are valid. Maybe a few of them we're confused by, but we're still going to share them.
Yeah, we're going to share these alternative ways to play. And one of the main things that brought this here is this first one right here. Officially a format recognized by Wizards of the Coast now. It is Oathbreaker. And now Oathbreaker is a variant of Commander, but you play with 60 cards. 2 of them. One is your Oathbreaker, which is a Planeswalker, which will follow the color identity rules. So it's much like a Commander that follows you have to follow its color identity rules. That's what the Planeswalker does. It's your Oathbreaker, and your Oathbreaker, your Planeswalker Commander, will have a signature spell, an instant or sorcery fitting within that color identity that you can cast when you have your Oathbreaker out.
Couldn't really tell you why it's called Oathbreaker. Name feels a little bit dramatic for me. Overall, the format looks interesting. I think I want to try it before I pass too much judgment on, but we definitely wanted to communicate what it actually is. So you have the, like Joe said, a Planeswalker Commander, and then they have a signature spell that you can only cast when you have the Planeswalker out, and it just has to share some of the color identity. If you have a Simic Planeswalker, you could have a blue spell.
This is a 4-player free-for-all format. It's intended to be played with 4 players, much like Commander. But one key difference here, starting life totals are 20, making something like aggro much more viable. I think things like Gideon of the Trials will get huge boosts in a format like this to consistently have a turn 3 4/4 that can just beat for, it's 5 hits to just kill somebody with a Gideon of the Trials, and that's going to be pretty fast.
Yeah, I think this format, there's some things that look appealing about it. I think pretty much all the fast mana is banned. The ban list is very interesting. Like things like High Tide are banned because it's kind of broken when you just have it in your command zone, and you can just recast it with Commander tax over and over. Some spells that you would think might be banned are not banned, so you can play Armageddon alongside your Gideon of the Trials if you want to. You can play the Elder spell, which feels like this format's Caracas, along with any Black Planeswalker, and it's very high-powered, it seems.
Yes, so I want to cover Elder spell. It's very interesting to me. I think this feels against the format, and it doesn't feel like it's broken. I don't think this card is broken or busted or anything along those lines, but it does feel against the spirit of the format where, okay, go ahead, everybody, play out your Planeswalkers so I can kill them for free.
And then Ultimate Mine.
It puts this weird spin on the game. Something very important to remember about this format is, just like Commander, it is about Rule 0, and it is a breakable format. This format is not something that is fair in any way. So if you want to break it, you can break it pretty easily. Red and 6 crop rotation is pretty over the top ridiculous.
Gaia's Cradle is legal.
Gaia's Cradle is legal in this format. I don't know why. So even though it can be broken, you can just go ahead and not break it because that's how they want you to play. Make something fun and exciting. I saw a cool thing. Koth the Hammer and the Lightning Bolt, the 3-mana Lightning Bolt that proliferates.
Volt Charge
in Koth, which I thought was really cool.
Does that work somehow? Like,
you proliferate your Koth up so that you can ult him and kill people.
Does he only need 1 extra loyalty?
No, I think he might need. Oh, I think the new one, Koth Resistance. Plus is the 6. Then you put him to 7, and then you ultimate away.
That's pretty cute. That's the stuff I like to see. I don't want to see Gideon of the Trials Armageddon or Nicol Bolas Elder Spell I would like to have a rule 0 if we play this. Pretty extensive rule 0, it seems like.
It seems important, yeah. But I do think it's fun. I do think that something about this format that will be really interesting is the 20 starting life total will make a lot of strategies that aren't normally viable much more viable. All right, before BZ begins this one, I have to ask, does anybody in the whole entire world, anybody watching this video, play the format Star? I told BZ we should take it off here. This is something that they said you could play at F&M like 10 years ago, and nobody played it at F&M. So
I played this format recently.
Who plays Star? Has anybody played Star except for BZ and the 5 people or the 4 other people in his pod? Has anyone in the last 20 years played this format?
You're going to get schooled by all the people in the comments saying Star is cool. I think Star's okay. It's a 5-player format, so if you have 5 people and you would like a shorter game, I think this will definitely get you there. 40 life, everything's the same. It's basically just we're changing the number of players and the victory condition. You're going to sit in some form of circle. The 2 people to your left and right are your allies, and the other 2 people are your enemies. The first player of the 5 to kill both of their enemies wins the game. And unlike a normal Commander game, you can have multiple winners of a Star game. Yeah, so if 2 people die who are not next to each other, no victory condition is met, nobody's 2 enemies are defeated, then a third person can die and leave the other 2 people to win the game at the same time.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I personally, this is one that has never drawn me in, never even looked appealing, whereas most of these have some appeal in some way, or for some reason make me want to play it. This one just kind of feels...
This one is time. If you want to take less time in a 5-player game, I think I'd rather play like 5 games of Star than maybe 3 regular games of 5-Mander.
I'll take the 3 regular game.
The next format is Plane Chase. Not so much a different format of Commander. You play every single part of Commander the exact same, except there's added rules. There's a deck of planar cards. They all have certain functionalities. There's a planar die, which you now have to roll. And rolling it corresponds to what happens on the plane. The plane will give you a chaos roll, which is just going to do something random. And then there's a planeswalk roll, which changes the plane. And you have this planar deck, and it just shifts planes over the course of the game. And you get random advantages and random punishments as planes change. And it's actually pretty fun. It's a lot of variance, though.
It does add a really high amount of variance. I find this to be a little bit more kooky than I'm looking for when I'm playing Commander, because Commander is already a kooky, over-the-top, ridiculously silly format. And Plane Chase just takes it to another level. I think you need to cultivate your deck to make sure nothing's broken. What's interesting about Plane Chase is it's just coming back. It'll be back with March of the Machine Commander decks. This is the Commander set for this year, and each one of the pre-counts will come with some Plane Chase cards, meaning it's time to, tell people about this. Plane Chase is cool and fun in a lot of ways. This is one where I look at it unlike Star, where I'm like, I don't personally necessarily enjoy this because I want to, enjoy the kookiness of the decks. This is another layer, and people, something that's good about something like a Plane Chase, if power level is something you can't really match that well with your play group, say, sometimes that happens where it's just like somebody has a couple better decks than you. This Plane Chase can just overcome that because it's so silly, it's so over the top. It can literally take a player from like being able to win to just losing right away because it's so over the top.
Yeah, there's a few planes that don't really feel that fun or fair. There's one that lets you play extra lands. So sometimes, every once in a while, somebody will roll, Planeswalk. Okay, great. You can play any number of additional lands. Okay, Planeswalk away. And then everyone else is just like, what just happened? Or there's one that makes an Eldrazi when you roll the Chaos. So you could roll just like 2 Eldrazi's and then pass. And now they have Annihilator or whatever, and usually the game's over. That could happen, but I guess this is the perfect and only time I can imagine we will ever shout out #Buffalo Plane Chase. Our play group actually made some custom planes, and they all feel pretty fair and fun.
Yeah, but also I think something that a rule of Plane Chase that we don't usually adhere by, because we just grab a deck of Plane Chase cards and play, you're supposed to cultivate it. Each player is supposed to pick a certain number of planes to put into the deck, and it's supposed to be a cultivated deck based on each player. It's like, hey, these are the whatever number. Let's say 5 planes I want in, 5 planes I want in, 5 planes I want in, and then everybody has a set number of planes they want in.
Oh, we just play with like 60.
Yeah, you're supposed to cultivate it, but that's how you're actually supposed to play, and that is an important rule to make sure that it's not as busted as we play. All right, up next is Brawl. This is a 4-player format, but it's mostly legal and played on Arena currently. So it's actually a 2-player format because it cannot do anything else in that. In Brawl, you can only use standard legal cards. You have a starting life total of 30, and Planeswalkers, in addition to legendary creatures, can be your commanders. but nobody really plays Brawl.
Brawl fell so flat on its face.
It did. And what ended up happening is because people want a version of Commander on Arena, we end up playing Historic Brawl, which is every card on Arena essentially, or most of them, not literally. I think there's some exceptions to that. Almost every card in the Arena is in Historic Brawl. This is a 2-player format. You play head to head. Again, starting life totals are 30. You have a limited selection of playable commanders. That is what is in the game. It's like you can't choose anything, so you have to choose what's in the game. And again, Planeswalkers are allowed as commanders.
Yeah, Historic Brawl is actually pretty fun, but it is a much different format than regular Commander. The 1v1 nature of it changes a lot of cards. Now, cards that say each opponent probably suck. Thoughtseize is good, so you're going to get a much more like spiky experience, but it's the closest you can possibly get to Commander on Magic Arena.
All right, moving on to Pauper Commander. This started out as a spin-off of, well, Pauper, and the idea of that format is you can only use cards that have been printed at Common. Okay, pretty simple. So this is a 4-player format. Starting life total is 30. If you know, I've noticed that nothing but Commander starts at 40.
Weird. And that might even be too much. I would be interested in seeing what it's like at 30.
Commander damage is 16, which is interesting. It's kind of a random number, but whatever. I think
okay.
The idea is like you need 6. Now you need 6 power for a 3-shot. That's what changes from doing that. Any uncommon creature, anyone, legendary or not legendary, can be your commander. Obviously, you can only have commons in your decks. And there's only 2 banned cards in the whole entire format. Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study, which are obviously stupid busted.
So if you want a short ban list, I don't think it gets any shorter than this ban list. We've had mixed experiences with Pauper Commander. We haven't played it in the past maybe 10 years
No,
or
it's
like
not that much.
7 years, something like that. We haven't played it in a really long time. When we played it, it sucked, and I hated it, and I would recommend it to nobody, because what happened back then, at least, was the board was stalled, and there was like 2 cards in your whole deck that could break through a board stall in any way. So that was just not enjoyable. But I think there's been enough good stuff, powerful commons printed recently, and powerful uncommons that can help break this stuff that'll be your commander, that it's probably not as much of an issue.
Yeah, I think it would be a much better format now. Like you said, there's just much stronger cards. And because of things like Commander Legends and Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, we've gotten a lot of good commons from those 2 sets that specifically are made to boost this format. So that's going to make this format much, much better. I'd like to give it a try again maybe someday. It's just, I don't know, building a deck and going out of my way when I have so many cool regular decks I want to build. It's tough for me to want to go, let's build a Pauper deck when I'm like, but I can build with that. And that's fetches and shocks.
I've liked playing on a budget more than restricting rarity. It's pretty similar. So if you want to play a budget deck, if you get like a little Pauper pod together or have everybody build one Pauper deck, you could do that, and it'd be a nice little shake-up.
Yeah, it's tough because I'm so ingrained in Commander that I like being able to just switch up and play so many decks that to get in the Pauper Commander, it's like everyone would have one deck and it would be the same experience for a while until you get more people into it.
Kind of, but you can also just pull out. It's still legal. You can just pull out a Pauper deck at a low power table.
It's actually not even true because most Pauper decks will be running their commander as a
but that's like rule 0. It's like, oh, hey,
well,
can I play Rot Widow Pack as my commander? And everyone's like, yeah, I don't care.
I'm just saying.
Sort of a side bonus format that I wanted to at least call attention to that I've heard a little bit about. As Wizards keeps printing all of these like direct to commander products, certain people are like not super thrilled about that, or they miss part of the old factors of Commander, which was like, hey, we just like Scrabble what you can get together out of a set. You know, when a Commander set comes, or when a standard set comes out, there's like 3 cards for your deck, and it's really hard to build a Commander deck. So there's pre-EDH, which is you can only play cards from up until New Phyrexia, nothing after that, because that's when the precon started coming out. So it ensures like definitely a lower powered, like old Magic feel of where everybody's trying their best to build a deck and cobble something together. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's something that doesn't really interest me either. Just to give my opinion, it's not that I will never stop anyone from playing any format or enjoying it. It just doesn't feel like it's for me. I think my honest opinion about precons is they've done nothing but improve the Commander format and make way more decks viable while increasing the power level and making it just an overall better experience.
Yes, I will agree with that. I think every once in a while, though, I do get a little annoyed and frustrated at cards like Arcane Signet and Command Tower, and they're just like in every single deck, because why wouldn't they be? And like stuff like that is, I think, blemishes on the format from the precons. So you can stray away from stuff like that if you want. And like some of the free spells, like, oh my god, Fierce Guardianship.
It's interesting. I understand your point there, but like those cards don't have to be played. Ultimately, I've been cutting cards like that. Like,
you're not cutting Command Tower.
Well, I'm not cutting Command Tower in Arcade Scene because they don't make a difference. They don't have a negative impact in deck building at all. Instead of playing a Mind Stone or something, I'm playing an Arcane Signet. They just don't make that big of a difference in deck building, and their power level isn't bad. It's just, I'm going to play a Mana Rock in its place. They've printed 1 million Mana Rocks. Okay, I'll play the best one. That doesn't really feel that bad. I'll play the best land. It doesn't feel that bad. When it's taking away from spots that I don't need, like I'm talking about something like a Teferi's Protection, a slot that is interesting and could be anything, that's when I'm more interested. I need to play lands. I need to play ramp. That's why Arcane Signet and like Command Tower don't feel as negative to me.
I just mean like they're still like clearly, to me, design mistakes.
Even though they're design mistakes, now that they're here, I don't think they're problematic. Up next, we have Canadian Highlander. This is a 1v1 version of Commander. You start at 40 life total, so this is like big life. You're going back and forth at each other. Only cards that are banned in this entire format are the cards that are banned in Vintage, which is not a lot. It's anti-cards, it's dexterity cards, conspiracy cards, silver bordered cards, and of course, the only singular card that isn't in a group,
the least functional Magic card of all time,
Shahrazad, which is just hilarious that it is the only like singled out banned card. Yeah. So instead of bans, what this format does is use a point system. So for example, you get 10 points for any given deck. So what you can do with those points is put in extremely powerful cards. For example, Soul Ring is 4 points. So in order to put a Soul Ring in your deck, you must use 4 of your 10 points. You want to put Ancestral Recall in your deck? Okay, 7 of your 10 points. In order to play the most busted, strong, and ridiculous cards, you have to give up other strong and busted and ridiculous cards. And I think this is very cool. I think it's too hard to keep track of ultimately overall.
Because there's no ban list, but like they could easily change the numbers of some of these cards, and like they updated where like Thassa's Oracle is now worth points, but it wasn't worth points before, and you got to like definitely keep track of that. Mm-hmm. And it's not just like, is it banned or is it not banned? It's like, how many points is it worth?
And that doesn't take anything away from how fun this format might be or
cool.
is. It seems very cool and interesting, and the idea is definitely there. When I look at this ban list and I think about it, I'm like, that's cool. That's a good idea. And that's like kind of going in a more of a direction I would like to see Commander going. I'm not saying I need this or want this or whatever for Commander, but this is at least it seems more on the right track than what we currently have as a ban list, in my personal opinion.
This is like a guaranteed way to see less nonsense. There's just going to be less of those stupid cards, staples, fast mana that you're going to see all over the place. This is like, no. Reel it in. You can get like 3 of them.
And also something I really like about this is you don't feel bad about playing this card, right? Because I get to play Soul Ring. Cool. I get to play Soul Ring. I get to play Mana Crypt. Those are the cards I put in my deck. Let's just say they cost 10 points. I'm not sure. Those are the 2 busted cards. Now when I do it, I don't feel bad because that's what I chose. That's what this deck gets.
And everyone gets something.
And everybody has gotten something because when they deck build,
they've got Demonic Tutor.
They got Demonic Tutor. Or this guy has Ancestral Recall and he's playing a bunch of different like ways to get it out of his deck. That's cool. That's interesting. And that is a great way to go. Obviously, Canadian Highlander has not picked up too much. It is relatively popular, but it's not like a ton of people are playing it.
Honestly, I think the only thing keeping me out of this is probably the 2-player aspect. I'd rather just play 4-player.
Okay.
Maybe there's some kind of 4-player version, but man, it really feels like they got something right in terms of you want a short ban list? There's like 10 cards on this ban list. Just know that you have to keep track of what things are worth point-wise, which realistically probably doesn't change that often, but you still need to know.
Yeah, very true. Next, we have another 1v1 version of Commander. This time you start at 20 life. This is Dual Commander or Oui, French Commander.
I knew you were going to say oui.
Oui, French Commander.
That feels offensive.
It's not. It can't be.
I'm not French.
I'm not French either.
I can't assess
Oui. Oui. I smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
So this kind of takes the exact opposite approach that we just talked about, where we have an extremely open thing with a point system. Now we have an extremely strict ban list. Pretty much anything that you consider busted is on this ban list.
Gone.
And 1v1, starting life totals at 20. This is intended to be sort of competitive Commander. Like, take it to a 1-on-1, put us at 20 life, but still keep the 100 card aspect, 100 card singleton aspect, but You have a stricter ban list, so things aren't as busted or over the top as and ridiculous, and it turns into more of an interesting back and forth kind of game.
Plus, there's a separate ban list of banned as Commander, which did exist for Commander. I would prefer Commander without it, so I'm glad we don't have it. But this does have that.
Yeah, it has a lot of banned as Commander. It's actually very interesting reading because it's exactly the commanders you would think. It's like Winota. Winota is exactly what you would think. Banned as Commander. It's silly in 1v1. I think Edgar Markov is just banned in 1v1. It's all these silly, over the top, ridiculously strong commanders, and especially when you bring them to a one-on-one format, just become ridiculous. Winota is stupid. It should be banned as Commander in a one-on-one format like Dual Commander.
The next format is called Kingdoms. I don't know if there's another name for it, but you'll probably know what I'm talking about. This introduces roles that each player takes on. This is for 5 to 6 player games. Everything's normal about the Commander game except for everybody has a hidden role. Some are public. And this site recommends handing out basic lands to determine the role. I would even go a step further. How about you just make cards that say the role on them so I don't have to translate? But anyway, there's a king, which is going to be playing face up. King starts at 50 life, and they always go first, and the goal of the king is to be the last man standing. Everybody kind of has different victory conditions. There's going to be a knight. The goal of the knight is to protect the king, and if the king and the knight are the last 2 players standing, they both win. So the king can win without the knight, but the knight needs the king to win. There's bandits. The goal of the bandit is to kill the king. If the king dies, the bandits just win, regardless of who's still in the game or what's going on. And there's usually 2 bandits in a game. And the 5th player is the assassin, and their goal is to specifically just kill everyone. Like, they just have to kind of win a normal Commander game. And then if there's a 6th player, you can throw in the usurper, which is to deliver the killing blow to the king. And if they do that, they switch places with the king. Their life goes to 50. The previous king remains in the game, adds the new usurper at 1 life. And now the new king is still protected by the old knight. It's like, that's definitely a little confusing. But for 5 players and 6 players, everyone gets the unique role, and the game starts. King reveals himself, goes first. And then the fun part about this is where you get all of the chaos. Nobody else knows anyone else's roles. So I can pretend to be the knight. I can pretend to be a bandit or whatever. The assassin's trying to just take everybody out and sow chaos. And there's a lot of cool stuff. I've played this a lot.
Yeah, this one is much more fun. Whereas BZ was talking about Star, if you want a shorter game of regular Commander, this is usually a shorter game of regular Commander. 1 player getting knocked out just ends the game. So it changes things up a lot. The only thing that has to happen is 3 players getting knocked out. Besides that, this is kind of a faster Commander, and it has people working together, but working together and not knowing if they're working with the right person. It's super interesting. I think if you like politics in Commander, this is a great way to play for you. It's super fun, and like I said, it adds an extra political factor. You can play Commander without being political. You can't play this format without being political.
As much variance as Plane Chase adds to Commander, this is how much politics it'll add into the format.
And this is just standard Commander, to be clear. There's no added rules, no anything, other than, like we said, the king starts at 50 life, and you have unknown roles with win conditions.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wow, politics. That sounds pretty cool. Nitpicking Nerds, do you have any tips on politics? Come on, you know we do. We have like 1,200 videos. This politics video is exactly what you need to watch right now. And if you don't watch it, you're going to think 3 hours from now, dang, I feel bad.
Peace out, Tribe Scouts.